Hi! In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 interview myths, and I'm going to be busting them. So I know a lot of us have heard a lot of horror stories from our friends about interviews, but I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of misconceptions out there, so let's get started. First, to make a good first impression, all you need to do is dress appropriately. While this is true, this is not the only component that goes into making a great first impression at the beginning of your interview. Dressing appropriately is a mutual sign of respect, and it shows that you care about the position being offered, you care about the reputation of the company, and you respect the time that the employer has carved out to meet with you. However, there are a lot of other components that go into it. For example, making direct eye contact when the employer walks in, standing up if you're the first one in there and giving them a firm handshake, also using a great tone of voice and a warm welcome. These are all things that can really contribute to making a fabulous first impression, not simply just the outfit that you picked out that day. Next, you can't prepare for an interview. This is totally false, and I've heard this from job seekers far too often. Our blog actually focuses specifically on career help and more fun concepts as well. However, there are definitely ways that you can prepare for an interview. Interviewers are not going to have a whole bunch of random, unique questions. It is typically going to be a standard set of questions and then one or two that are company or industry specific. So there are totally ways that you can prepare for an interview. And it's not just responding to the interview questions, it's also building up confidence before an interview, making sure that you're there on time. All of these things go into the preparation of having a great interview. Next, you'll learn everything that you need to know during the first interview. This definitely will not happen, and I actually highly encourage you, if you do get offered the position and you are still a little unsure, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call your employer to get answers to some clarifying questions. This is super important because you need to remember that during an interview, the employer is interviewing the applicant, but at the same time, this is the applicant's chance to interview the company and get a feel for the company culture. It's important to make sure that you are accepting a position that is going to fit in with your personal and professional life, and help you meet your career goals as well. 4, interviewers are always prepared and they want you to trip up. This definitely should not be the case, and if you're getting the feeling that the employer wants you to trip up during your interview, you should definitely ask yourself if this is a company that you can see yourself working for. Your employer should really want the best for you. They should want to bring out the best in you, and they should want to help you succeed, and that all starts right in the interview. Next, there's a right answer to each question asked. This is definitely not the case, and this is another really common question that I hear a lot. There are definitely some things that you shouldn't say during an interview, and we do talk about this on our blog. And this just pertains to kind of inappropriate questions to ask during an interview, things you should wait on until you get offered the position or you move on to a second interview. However, there is no right answer to the interview questions as long as you are honest and genuine and articulate when answering them. Next, you can only ask questions at the end. This definitely isn't true, and I actually highly encourage you to ask questions as they come up and as you go along, because it is super important to make the interview feel conversational. And I'm sure you've heard this a lot, and it can be really hard to make an interview feel conversational, especially if you're really nervous and on edge. It can be really difficult, and this is where asking questions as they come up during the interview can really help it have more of a natural flow. You're going to be able to get to know your potential boss, and they're going to be able to get to know you, and you're going to have a better understanding of if this position is really going to be right for who you are as a person. Next, interviewers assume that you want the job because you're on the interview, and that definitely is not the case. There are plenty of times where an applicant gets picked for the position and they say no, they turn down the position. And this happens all the time because if you think about it, you never just apply to one job. You usually send out a whole bunch of applications, you participate in a bunch of interviews, and then you pick, once you get offers, which situation is going to be best for your personal and professional life. So definitely don't feel any kind of pressure to automatically say yes to a position right during the interview. Your interviewer shouldn't be asking you this anyway. It should be an offer that is in the end negotiated and agreed upon. Next, the most qualified person will get the job offer. This is not always the case. It doesn't matter if you went to an Ivy League or a community college, any kind of qualifications that you have kind of go out the window, especially if it's not your first job you've ever had. It's definitely more about experience and passion, and if your personality matches the company culture and the qualities that the employer wants to bring into the workplace environment. Next, writing a thank you note is required. It's definitely not required, but it is highly, highly recommended that you write a thank you note shortly after the interview concludes. So if you have an interview at 11 a.m., I would recommend sending them a thank you note that evening or the next morning. It's really important to be timely about this. And we also have a lot of great content on our blog about writing the perfect thank you note. This includes, including something that is really specific to your interview in the thank you note so that it jogs the interviewer's memory and remembers what you guys talked about during the interview. And the final misconception is that you can't be yourself, and this is definitely not true. You should 100% feel that you can be yourself in an interview. And I really recommend that if you do have a gut feeling where you can't be yourself in the interview environment and in the company environment, that this might not be the best position for you. You should walk in, try to be exactly who you are, and really see if the company culture, the environment, the tasks that you will be performing if you do get hired match your skill set, your comfort levels, and will also challenge you to push your career forward. So these are 10 common interview misconceptions busted for you. For more helpful content, make sure to check out our blog.